Hello children, welcome back to my talks, and here I am with standard 12th biology. Okay, loss of biodiversity and conservation. We are going to take these two topics today and I'm going to talk about it. Okay, so loss of biodiversity. Before I come to this loss, okay, let me talk about that there's a question, that whether speciation is taking place or not, newer species are being added to the ecosystem or not, okay, but the species are getting extinct, okay, and this loss is taking place. And in the last class, that rivet example, plain example we told, so with that you can very well correlate that if one species every time, then what is going to happen to this system, to this community, to the whole earth, and a question mark on our survival as well. Okay, so this loss of biodiversity, yes, organisms, amphibians, even the plants, okay, amphibians are very susceptible to getting extinct, okay, and it's really very difficult, especially for the cold-blooded organisms, okay, to adapt themselves to the changing climatic conditions. Yes, it's difficult, and quite many organisms, quite many species became extinct due to that. And now when I talk about this loss of biodiversity, okay, yes, it what does it add to? So the first one is decline in plant production. Yes, when the biodiversity is lost, definitely the number of plant species in a particular area, that also decreases, and you have the same sort of plants everywhere. You do not see the varieties of species. It means species diversity, that is affected, and if that is affected, you can very well connect to the oxygen demand of the whole world. Okay, the complete living organisms, the animal, the zoology is dependent upon the botany for oxygen, isn't it? And if botany is not there, you can understand how we will be able to survive. Yes, that will be definite. Then yes, lowered resistance. Lowered resistance, again, when we disturb the ecosystem, when we disturb the community, we disturb the biodiversity, the organisms become extinct, definitely by you can say bringing about some changes in the environment, in the climatic conditions, the weather conditions, okay, our contribution results to all this. And finally, the resistance, the fighting spirit of the organisms, that also decreases. Okay, and then the third one is increased variability. Yes, increased variability, we talk in terms of the conditions. Okay, let me just check it whether only these three points are there. Yes, it talks about the lowered resistance, as I told you, okay, the unfavorable conditions, the droughts and all, okay, and variability, ecosystem process, that is the plant productivity, water use, pest and all that, that also keeps differing, the different sorts of pests, okay, which comes to the plants and affects the productivity of the particular plants. Now, causes of biodiversity, causes of biodiversity losses. So the first one is habitat loss and fragmentation. Very good example of Amazon forest. Yes, I feel a year back or some months back, okay, you must have watched it on the television, they showed it, if not in Google, okay, there was a fire. So it was done intentionally, what, I don't want to get into that, but then Amazon forest is said to be the lungs. Okay, and can you imagine when that gets destroyed, when that is burnt, when that is cut, okay, how it is going to affect the whole of the human community, the whole of the animal community, and how are we going to get oxygen, from where are we going to oxygen. So and quite many along, if it is burnt, it's not that only the plants are cut, even all those species which are dependent on those plants, okay, they also become extinct due to that. And there is, like, they coexist, certain pests, okay, they feed upon certain plants, and if those plants are cut off, definitely those which feed upon that, they will also be extinct. So it affects the whole of the community and quite many species in that. So habitat loss and fragmentation, yes, they become fragmented. Fragmented means a few of the species will be left, and they won't have the climatic conditions, they won't have the weather conditions for survival, and finally there'll be loss for that. And as we are moving towards modernity, okay, we want a big 5-star hotels, we want the buildings, we want the furnitures, okay. So for all that, again, forests are cut off, and devastating way we are going on cutting of the forest for our own exhibiting our own richness, you can say, okay. And that is what the habitat, the home of the organisms are being lost, and that is how again it affects the biodiversity. We are extincting, you can say, the organisms. Yes, over exploitation. It is very well said. Okay, कि अगर आपको जो जरूरत है वो तो आप यूज करोगे ही, अगर आपको फर्नीचर, वुडन फर्नीचर चाहिए वो तो करोगे, but then it is said that if you are cutting off trees, if you cut off one, two should be planted also. So we do not focus on that it should be planted. We only focus on cutting off. ओके, सो अगर हम किसी भी चीज को बहुत ज्यादा ओवर यूज करते हैं, ओके, लाइक एज यू सी दैट the nature we have got, okay, and what do we keep on exploiting it, we keep on destroying it, again for making our materialistic life more richer one, more enjoyable one. So we have to pay for it, in not now, in the long run. So that is what it says. So over exploitation of the resources, the natural resources, that also leads to an alien species invasion. Yes, some foreign species which has been maybe sometimes brought over there due to beauty, and it invades, okay, it kills all other organisms. So that is also, and somehow if it is blot, if the pollens come over there and they germinate, that also devastates that kills the whole of the species over there. So that also affects the biodiversity sometimes. Now co-extinction, as I've already explained, okay, that two species, maybe the host and the prey, okay, the host harbors the certain prey, and if the host is dead, okay, the prey also will not be survived. If they are very specific to each other, if they feed upon, like if that particular prey feeds upon that particular host, do let me know what's the difference between host and prey. Okay, so if they are interrelated, if they coexist, they are interdependent, okay. So then definitely if one is not there, the other will also have to die. So that also affects the biodiversity. Now I come to this biodiversity conservation. So here it is narrow utilitarian and broad utilitarian. It means, you know, why we should be conserving them. Okay, so it has got utilities for us, okay, and in narrow utility, you say that the way we are dependent for our food, okay, for clothes, for everything, okay, the perfumes, whatever we get, the furnitures, for everything in our lives, we are dependent. These are the small things, and these are said to be narrow. Even the medicinal uses, okay, the spices, everything. So they come into narrow utilitarian. So for those reasons, they must be conserved. And then the next one is broad utilitarian. Now broad utilitarian, the oxygen which we get from the nature, free of cost. Okay, if you have to pay for these days, COVID times, you can very well understand, and you must be seeing on the television also, एक oxygen cylinder, okay, people are not getting it if they want it, and those who are very sick, and those who are getting it also, they are charging 3 to 4 times more for one particular cylinder. तो आप समझ सकते हो कि एक ऑक्सीजन सिलेंडर को अगर हम किसी हॉस्पिटल से या कहीं से या मार्केट से लेते हैं तो उसका कितना कॉस्ट, और हम यहाँ पे कितना ऑक्सीजन दिन भर लेते रहते हैं, तो उसके लिए हमको पे नहीं करना पड़ता. दैट इज ऑल फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट. तो ब्रॉड यूटिलिटेरियन में ये वाटर हम यूज करते हैं, हम वेस्ट करते हैं, ओके, ये सारी चीजें जो है. उसके बाद बहुत सारी हमको जो नेचुरल ब्यूटी मिलती है, ओके, पॉलिनेटर्स जो आपके फ्लावर्स को आपके गार्डन में जो पॉलिनेट करते हैं वो भी फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट. आप पैसे देके इंसेक्ट को नहीं बुलाते कि लो भाई पैसे लो और मेरे गार्डन में जितने फ्लावर्स हैं उन सारे को पॉलिनेट करो, ऐसा नहीं होता. तो वो दैट इज ऑल फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट. दीज आर ब्रॉड यूटिलिटेरियंस. Okay, solar energy which you get from the sun, you don't have to pay for that. Even I don't have to pay for that. Okay, you does not mean you. We don't have to pay for that. And that is why we do not understand their importance. So this is why we should be conserving the nature. We should be conserving this biodiversity. Now comes how to conserve. Yes, one is in situ conservation. Okay, there what whichever species, okay, that is more in a particular in a particular area. Like Western Ghats have got a species which has more in that particular region, and other regions it is not found. Okay, so certain regions where certain particular species are it is rich in a particular species. Okay, so those regions must be conserved so that the particular species does not become extinct. Okay, like it is suitable, the conditions are suitable for species richness, and the species are only found now at particular time in that particular regions. So in situ conservation, so that particular species in those particular areas to conserve, that is in situ conservation. And ex situ is like organisms are on the extinct level, and finally we make zoological parks and zoos and all that, and finally we bring them, provide them artificially the environmental conditions for them to survive. Okay, whether it is plants or animals, we make the gardens. Okay, and finally we try to conserve them, we try to see that they do not become extinct. So that is ex situ, मतलब externally हम artificially उनको लाके और उनको उनकी देखभाल करते हैं. That is again this. And in situ is wherever they are in their natural conditions. Okay, if it is preserved in that particular area, the particular area is conserved. That is what is in situ and ex situ. Okay, hope you must have understood, children. And with this we come to the end of the chapter. Rest, it is very beautifully said in your book, and I hope you must have understood. Do write it in the comment section, the difference between in situ conservation and ex situ conservation. Okay, and what is co-extinction. I want the answers of this, and with this we complete the chapter. Thank you for watching.